Hi, this is Yoli. Thank you for tuning in. This workshop is all about the California native plants that are growing at the Nature Parkway. So, for the next few minutes, we're going to be able to go over some of the native California plants that are growing currently at the Nature Parkway. You're going to decide whether you want to choose one of them to plant at the Nature Parkway, or perhaps you're going to like some of the plants that are towards the end of this workshop, which are some plants that are not currently growing at the Nature Parkway. But you might have another idea of another California native plant that should be growing at the Nature Parkway. And so the survey that you will get, all of the plants that you hear about today are going to be listed. You could choose one of them as a plant that you plant at the Nature Parkway in an upcoming date in December or January, not too sure. Or you could select a plant that you know about that you would like to see growing at the Nature Parkway. Just keep in mind that the Nature Parkway is a community garden. It's called the California Native Plant Garden. We select these type of plants because they're drought tolerant and because they can survive in the harsh weather that the San Fernando Valley sometimes gives us with the extreme heat and the very, very little rain. And so as you learn about these plants, you will be able to decide which one you think is going to grow best. Maybe you like the way this plant is already growing at the Nature Parkway and you want to see more of them. Or like I said, given that you know the kind of plants that we're looking for, then you might have another idea, something that wasn't presented today. All right, let's get started. So our first plant is called Eriogonum. It's a buckwheat. It comes in different types of sizes. It takes about full sun, but could also survive with partial sun. It's a fast-growing plant and it's adaptable. And so these sizes and habitats and foliage, they vary across all the buckwheats. What we see at the Nature Parkway is Eriogonum giganteum, which is St. Catherine's lace. They all attract birds and insects. Most flower in the spring and summer in large sprays of creamy white. Some bloom yellow or pink. That's called the rubescens. It's a red buckwheat. As flowers dry, the seed heads age to rust, red or brown. And in the one that you see at the Nature Parkway, the California buckwheat, is easy and tough with white to pink blossoms. I haven't seen the pink yet, but it's usually white. This Eriogonum giganteum can grow up to 8 feet tall. Our next plant is Adenostoma fasciculatum. It's a chamise, a shrub. It also doesn't need a lot of water. It does need full sun. It can be in the shade. It does grow fast and it's adaptable. Few plants are tougher than this upright evergreen chaparral shrub with beautiful red peeling bark. In spring, spikes of small white flowers attract butterflies and birds and contrast brightly against the dense dark green needle-like foliage. A superb choice for hot, dry locations and erosion control, but not recommended for fire-prone areas. Our third plant is the Artemisia. It's also a shrub. There's so many different types. Again, very little water, but needs full sun. It grows rapidly, and it's also adaptable. This varied group is noted for its highly fragrant, usually gray, blue-gray, or silvery foliage. Habits range from tall and upright to low and spreading. All attract butterflies and provide shelter and food for quail and other native birds. This one can grow up to 4 feet tall. The one that we have growing at the Nature Parkway is Artemisia californica. It's also called Cowboy's Cologne because of the scent that it gives. Now, one of the most famous plants that we have is the Ansellia, also known as the sunflower. It does need full sun, very little water, and it is adaptable. It can also grow like a shrub. The two adaptable shrubbery sunflowers are especially well suited for gardens. Ansellia californica, California, or bush sunflower is a sprawling coastal native with green foliage and repeat waves of color. The Ancelia farinosa, the brittlebrush or incienso, is compact desert native with gray white leaves and spring bloom. It prefers hot inland conditions. Both are fast growing with bright yellow flowers that attract a wide range of pollinators and can be used in cut arrangements. So making bouquets and things like that. So again, the one that is best for the desert native type of environment would be the Ancelia farinosa. And the sunflowers can grow up to 3 feet tall because it is like a shrub. The next plant to present to you all, I believe it's now going to be our 5th plant, is the epilobium, also known as the California fuchsia. It's a perennial. This plant could survive in partial sun, and it does require a little bit more water than the rest of them, but also very drought tolerant. The low-growing, heat-tolerant perennial is like an important food source for hummingbirds in late summer and fall. Many choices are available, mostly gray leaves and a profusion of vivid orange-red tubular flowers. Used for a spot of color and near rocks, and we have them growing next to the magueys. The Epilobium canum, it's like a fuchsia. It's an adaptable gray-green species. It's also there's a species called the Catalina, has silvery leaves and is more upright than most. This plant can grow up to 2 feet tall. Now, next up is the fern. The fern does need more water than the epilobium, but not extremely. Again, it is a drought-tolerant plant. In seasonal, dry California, ferns are usually encountered in cool, moist, shady areas, often near streams or waterfalls. To thrive, most need rich organic soils and consistent moisture, with protection from direct sun and drying winds. Good garden ferns include upright and easy Polystichum monetum. That's the western sword fern. And ferns can grow up to 4 feet tall. Next up is the Iris douglasiana, or Douglas iris. It does require a little bit more than a little of water, this drought-tolerant plant. It is slow to grow, but it is adaptable. A long spring bloom and colors in every shade of lavender, purple make this native iris a great plant for part shade or dappled light. It prefers cool roots, rich soil and good drainage, and thrives in mixed beds. The durable cultivar, Canyon Snow, bears beautiful white flowers with yellow centers. There's a large group called the Pacific Coast Hybrid Irises, offers a broad range of flowers and colors. The iris can grow not too tall, a little bit over a foot. Next up is the penstemon. There's many types. This is also a perennial, very little water, and it's fast growing and it does need full sun. This large group of perennials varies in habit and leaf and color, the color of the flower. It's just according to the species. The penstemon grows tall and bushy with green foliage and purple to magenta blossoms. That's the Penstemon spectabilis. The Penstemon centrahilifolius, the scarlet bugler, forms a low rosette of gray leaves and a tall stem of tubular red flowers. The Penstemon heterophyllus, the foothill penstemon, and its adaptable selection of the margarita pop are low and mounding with gray-green leaves and blue-purple blooms. All provide spring-summer color, much to the delight of hummingbirds and bumblebees in the garden. Volunteer seedlings are common. Perennials can grow up to 2 feet tall. And now for the salvia, the sage. It's a sub-shrub as well. It needs very little water and it can survive in full sun or partial sun. It's fast growing and adaptable. These shrubbery garden staples are prized for their aromatic foliage and white lavender or blue purple flowers. Salvia apiana, the white sage, which we have growing in different areas at the Nature Parkway, has white blossoms and potentially scented silver white leaves. The Salvia clavendi, the Cleveland sage, also at the Nature Parkway, and its cultivators, including the Winifred Gilman, are prized for intense fragrance, gray foliage, and abundant lavender or blue-purple color. The Mellifera, the black sage, is very adaptable with green, mildly scented leaves and white to pale lavender flowers. And now for some of the plants that we do not have growing at the Nature Parkway, but I am offering them as a suggested type that we do start growing at the Nature Parkway. This one here, the next one is called Rhomnea coulteri, the Matalija poppy. It's also a perennial, needs very little water, fast growing, and it could work well. It could live well with full sun or partial sun. Very adaptable. It's also known as the fried eggplant. This impressive perennial needs plenty of room to spread. Once established, it can be difficult to contain. It blooms profusely on tall, upright stems, which means if we have like a big gap in the Nature Parkway, this one will do well where it could stretch and grow and use up all that space. It blooms profusely on tall, upright stems, spectacular, lightly fragrant flowers, the largest in the California flora. It can be 6 feet wide and up to 5 feet tall. The rare selection, the white cloud, is more compact with even larger flowers. Renew clumps by cutting back to stubs each winter. So it's going to take some care in the winter time. It's a showstopper in late spring. Another plant that we do not have growing at the Nature Parkway is a rose. It's the Rosa californica, California wild rose, and it grows like a shrub. It's slow to grow. It could grow in full sun, partial sun, but it does require a little bit more water than the rest. It needs to be watered at least twice a month, with the others that we've mentioned have only need to be watered once a month. The largest thicket-forming shrub sports fragrant 2-inch wide blooms, followed by red rose hips that can be used for teas and are valued by birds and other wildlife. They also find shelter in the plant's very prickly stems. Butterflies, bees, and other pollinators are drawn to the flowers. The best with light shade inland and moderate irrigation. It's a winter deciduous. Use as a barrier or screen, or let it spread under tall trees, because it does require that partial sun. It won't survive if it's blasted with sun. It can grow up to 3 feet tall. And now for the last plant for this presentation. It's the wildflowers. It does need more water than the other perennials. It's adaptable and it can survive with partial, full sun, but also no direct sun. The California's world most famous spring wildflowers are short-lived annual plants best started from seed in the fall, just before the rainy season. For a rainbow of color, sow an assortment of different species. If we want the Nature Parkway to have a dramatic display, we should plant blocks of single hues, like the California poppy, like the elegant Clararchia, the Globegilia, lupine, as you see on these pictures here. But there's also the Menzelia lindleyi, the Phacelia campanularia, and of course our state's flower, the poppy. Wildflowers can grow up to 1 feet high. So that concludes this workshop. The next step is for you to fill out the survey and select the plant that you want to plant at the Nature Parkway, or identify a plant that you think will survive at the Nature Parkway. Make sure it's a California native plant. Now I'm showing you the calendar so you can notice that there is an option for you to attend on Sunday, the ability to find areas to plant, which plants needed partial sun, which ones needed full sun, and where in the Nature Parkway can we find that. And so you're all welcome to join us, but it's not required to join us this Sunday. And the last step would be for the following weekend, November 20th. It's a Saturday at 9 a.m. We're going to meet at the Source Center over in Pacoima on Tuxford and Van Nuys Boulevard. From 9 to 12, we'll be meeting where we're going to get trained on public speaking and advocacy. If we want to make the change in our neighborhood, we need to know how to speak to power, how to get our point across so that we can be successful. I look forward to the next couple of weeks with you. After next weekend, we'll take a break for the holidays, and then we'll resume again on the first weekend of December. The time is flying. I hope you are all well. Thank you again for participating in the Nature Heals program.